Welcome back. In this session, session 4, part 2, we are going to discuss the terminologies, the processes of the data science project. We do not go deep inside. I just want to refresh your memory from the past. Whatever we are going to discuss are supposed to become foundational, basically base for your future courses that you're going to take. We discuss about terminologies, we discuss about the processes, we discuss about the project life cycles, visualization, for example, at some point it comes into the view at the end of the class and materials. I want you to keep in mind, data for now as a simple matter, process, and then conclusion and future. So future action. Let's take a look at the screen that I have. This is where we begin, introduction to data science. And as we said many times, the very first component of this entire cycle is data, the entry point. So let's take a look at the data. We go into basically a very important hierarchy. It is called data, information, knowledge, and wisdom. Data D, information I, knowledge K, wisdom W, DIKW hierarchy. That's how it is called. If you take a look at this shape, you can see that this shape is in a pyramid shape, and there is a reason for that. The data portion is very huge. There are many things that are coming at us. It depends on where you are. You go into a class, if there is a physical class, you see many people are actually talking inside the class, but you know your teammates, you know your girlfriend and boyfriend, you know someone that you have been quite familiar with, interacting with in the past. But the information is coming, the slide is on the screen, people are talking, desk is moving, lots of data is coming. Then there is going to be information and knowledge and wisdom. We are going to talk about that. Each one of them is going to be reduced in size, because by the time you go to and reach to the wisdom level, obviously you are not going to make decision for every data point that is coming at you. You're not going to say, I understand this, I understand. You're not going to go and overload yourself. So based on a very specific analysis that you do from the data that is coming at you, you're going to actually make a decision at the end of the day. So that's why it is in the form of a pyramid. The second thing I need you to keep in mind is that portion of this pyramid is about the past, and portion of it is about the future. As soon as the data comes at you, whether it comes through your ears and eyes and nose and tongues, skins and everything else we have discussed in the past, or it could be from electronic devices such as thermostat in your house, maybe the audio signal that is coming, heart signal, brain signal, your mother voice, your father voice. It could be bird signals, bird voice, or it could be images that are coming at you. You're watching a movie, whatever you call it. You're looking at YouTube, you're looking at Vimeo, whatever you call it. These are, as soon as you observe them, it becomes past. You can't say, I know the data tomorrow. It's not there yet, right? So that's called past. Then, of course, information and knowledge are going to be built upon the data itself. But you're going to utilize the conclusion as part of your wisdom to act in future, to act next second, to act next minute, next week, next month, next year, part of your life. So that's why I need you to keep in mind the direction of the time zone, past toward the future, and the size of each segment as we go. Let me give you an example. Your eyes are telling you that you have seen a red signal. What is that? Is it a red apple? Is it a red dish? Is it a red table? Is it a red dress? What is it? It just came at you. You were driving. Of course, I wasn't supposed to give you the context at this time, but I'm just trying to tell you, you just saw something that is red, right? That's a data point. You have no idea what that is at this time, but your brain rushes to process that. And the way it's going to process that is, first and foremost, where is this? Where is this red signal? So it's going to say it's an intersection of Pitt and George Streets. This is inside the city. There may be a stop sign, sorry, a red light camera. There may be multiple entries and exits to the crossroad. There may be bicycles coming in. There may be pedestrians that are moving around. You need to be alert as what this red means, where you are, okay? So that's the information. Then you would take a look at that, and you take a look at the traffic, and you see the traffic light I'm driving toward has turned red. Well, as you know, in traffic, in intersection, you might be facing with different angles of traffic light. If it is just kind of a 90 degrees, but it could be angle, and there could be multiple entry and exit, as I said, and it could be multiple cross lights. But the one I'm driving toward is going to turn red. So that's a very significant information. Do I react if the opposite to me has actually turned red? No, that means my light is green. But at this time, in this experiment, in this practice, in this example, the one I'm driving toward is turning red. That's the knowledge. And then you have to stop the car. That's the future. So you collected the data, you have gone through information and knowledge stage, and then your wisdom is telling you have to stop the car. Otherwise, you're going to kill somebody, you're going to get a fine and ticket and so on, okay? So let's take a look at this. The DIKW hierarchy is actually quite applicable to almost everything we do. Again, the life cycle and this pyramid of the topic is going to be coming up quite a number of times. We want you to get a hold of this stages of getting matured until you get to the level we call a wise person, okay? Wisdom comes after many years, perhaps a couple of decades of your life, going through ups and downs in life. That's why we call you a wise person, because you have passed through 2 decades, maybe 3 decades, and that's an important milestone. That's an important stage in your life, that you have collected wisdom, right? Let's begin. Again, it doesn't have to be all the time about the real life experience. It could be something quite technical. For example, you go to Walmart, you go to Costco, you go to Sam's Club. Data is actually collected at the entry point. So you bought something, you want to exit the store, and you go to the cashier and you put your credit card or on a touch base or insert it, and you begin to put the passcode in. As soon as you try to pay, the data is collected. So if you do a touch on your credit card versus the card reader, that's the point of entry. If you insert the credit card you have inside the card reader, that's the point of entry. And that's going to be where the data is collected. Then the credit card company has information management system. Okay, which store is this one is coming from? Where is it coming from? Maybe it is in San Francisco, maybe it is in Mexico, maybe it is in a different state of US, or maybe in Europe. So information management system, it tries to manage the system and understand where the data is coming from and put them in a proper place, categories. We talk about that later, as in classification later. Knowledge is in relation with decision support system. The credit card company needs to make a decision whether to allow your transaction to go through or not. With that in mind, it's a very critical information that the credit company is making the right decision. I live, for example, in Mexico, and I have lived in Mexico. My home address is in Mexico. I have been there for a long time, 20 years, and suddenly my credit card company realizes that my credit card has been used in country X. I have never been in country X in my life. I have had no record of my activities, none of my transactions in the past is actually supporting the idea that I'm actually moving into that direction of country X. With that in mind, the credit card is going to flag the transaction as fraud, and fraud detection is going to kick in. No, 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 no. The transaction is actually happening exactly in the same city that I am in. Okay, and I have had purchases of food, and I have purchased some $100 here and $200 there and 1,000 there, and suddenly there is a transaction coming in with 10,000. I have never bought anything 10,000 even in my city. There has to be a support system, and that's where the knowledge comes in. In the support system, it is supposed to actually tell me eventually whether the credit card transaction needs to go through or not. That support system collection of evidences is going to be basically the knowledge. Remember, at this time, credit card company is actually tapping into its own server memory. Let's call it memory bank. The credit company is actually looking at the memory bank. That's what the knowledge is. In the memory bank, you never bought anything more than $4,000 by a credit card. You never moved out of Mexico in the past 6-8 months. By the way, you are in quarantine. You're not supposed to move anyway. Make sense? So it's a memory bank issue. I'm actually testing the data that is coming my way against the memory bank that I have. And then wisdom is the relation with the expert system. Now, the decision is to reject your transaction. The decision is to accept your transaction. The decision is also to call you and say, is this you who are putting through the transaction? Maybe they would like you to verify yourself through a different app in a different mean so that they know it is you and it's not someone else. Most of the time they call you. They actually block it if it is unusual activity, and then they will call you to verify that this is the case. They may let the transaction go temporarily, but they block it. And if it is, for example, online, until you buy something on Amazon.com and they call you, and then when they verify it's you, they are going to let the transaction go. And what happens is that whatever the conclusion of that process is, it becomes part of the memory bank. So what is it? You have a point of contact, then you have to manage it, classify it, put them in different categories, verify it. Then you are going to have a support system in place, a memory bank. Then you're going to actually make a decision on that, okay? Let's take a look at this once again. It is so important that we would like to basically go through this one more time. This is a different way of representing it. Data at the bottom, information next, knowledge next, wisdom and decision at the end. Again, these type of showcasing of the cycle could potentially be a little bit different, slightly different from one person to another person, one textbook to another person to another textbook. And that's why you can see the decision is actually added to the previous pyramid that we had. As you can see, the decision is going to actually manifest itself in the form of a change and a movement. Something is going to happen. Something is going to be basically coming. I want to explain this in the following slides, but as you can see, the data, information, knowledge is actually coming from the past. Wisdom and decisions are going to act and impact the future, and the future could be next second, millisecond, as a matter of fact. It could be nanosecond, it could be 1 day, it could be 1 hour, it could be anything. If it is a stock market you are trading, it could be just minute trading. If you're doing hourly trading, you're doing daily trading, you're doing, that's what the wisdom and decision are going to come in. So I need you to keep that in mind, that I have an entry point. I am collecting the data. I am going to basically learn my way through the process. I am going to have a memory bank. That's exactly what your memory bank in your brain is doing right now. And I'm going to judge according to the new information, the new pieces of data that is coming in. of course, through the information and knowledge, whether to allow that transaction or that action to take place or not. Data, generally speaking, is raw. It is coming. They may not have been, at the very initial point, they may not have been even tagged properly. When you go into the beach side, COVID-19 permitting, you're going to hear many voices, the birds, the ocean, the friends, your parents, your sister, brother, boyfriend, girlfriend. You could see, you could hear the sound of the wind and everything else. Partially, you have tagged them already because you say, okay, I have heard bird sound before, so this must be a bird sound. This must be an ocean sound because I have been on the beach side in the past. But still keep in mind that the data is coming to you, although you have tagged them, although your memory is actually helping you to categorize them, but keep in mind the data is coming at you. These are the point of contact, your eyes, your ears, your tongue, everything. The same is happening in a transaction. I go to Amazon Jungle, and in Amazon Jungle, this is my first time. I have never been before. I'm not even aware of the threats and opportunities. I'm just there. The excitement took me there. With that in mind, this is a brand new environment. I never had Amazon Jungle environment in the past. The data is coming in. I'm going to categorize some of them. Maybe some of them are familiar and some of them are not. And those are not familiar are going to scare me. And those that are familiar, I'm going to let them pass by. The sound of the wind, oh, not bad. The movements of the leaf on a tree, okay, I can handle that. But the whoosh that is coming in, maybe there was a monkey, a bear, something moving around. So that's very important. Generally speaking, the data is coming in, especially at the electronic devices. They are coming in the form of raw data, okay? They have no meaning. So when you take a look at your chat, your cell phone, take a look at the news, take a look at the TV, all of them are coming at you. And at that time, you haven't made a decision how to tag them. Is that important? Is that piece of news is important? Is that piece of news is not important? You might be washing a dish at the moment. You might be eating a sandwich. The news comes and goes. That's the point of entry. So it's no meaning yet attached to it. And it's coming from outside. So it's not, basically, it's coming from outside of the sensors, outside of your body sensors or outside of the electronic devices sensors. Information is a process to answer questions for who, what, when, how many. How many means numeric. 1, 2, 3. 3 apples, 5 oranges in the basket. When? So basically, was it now? Was it basically placed on the kitchen table a couple of days ago? What was that? And then what is inside? We talk about orange and apple, and these are not necessarily numbers. Apple has its own attribute. Orange has its own attribute. When we say good and bad, when we say rotten and fresh, these are words that are not necessarily numbers, such as 1, 2, 3. And as we are going to learn, we are going to somehow find a bridge between these attributes, these feelings, good and bad, large, small, medium size, and tag them somehow with numbers. We will talk about them later. It has been organized, basically, so they have some meaning and value to the recipient. At this time, when you take a look at the basket of apple and oranges, you can see apples together, you can see oranges together, you can see mangoes together, for example, right? Kiwis together. So that's what is going to happen. When you take a look at the credit card example I gave in the previous slide, the credit card company already has a number of important pieces about the data that is coming in. Which city, which store this data is coming from. It's already organized for the store to basically begin and initiate the process. Okay, it is San Francisco. The transaction is coming from a store Walmart number 3458. in San Francisco, and the person who is doing this transaction has an address in San Francisco. That's actually a secondary part of the process. But at this time, the credit company needs to know that you are coming from, that the transaction is coming from 3568 store in San Francisco. It's supposed to add value slowly. We are supposed to understand what the data means. I mean, a transaction on Amazon.com has happened in San Francisco. And we begin to understand slowly using the IP locator where the order has been placed, how much the order has been placed. We already have the history of this person who is making an order. Again, I'm actually moving too fast of describing this. But what I'm trying to say is that as soon as you organize the data, then you can begin. Then you can begin to start your work. If it's not organized, you can't do anything. That's why the information is a formatted data. So we talk about formatting in quite a bit in the next few slides and lectures. Knowledge is about how. It's based on perception. It is the easiest thing to say, actually. I would say that the knowledge is the memory bank. And this memory bank has answered all of these questions in the past. How this has happened in the past. What was the expert opinion in the past? I did something wrong, and my mother told me basically, no, this is not the way you eat an orange. This is not the way you eat your food. You don't drink water this way. So there is an expert opinion. I imagine I'm just 4 or 5 years old. I'm not your age, 4 or 5 years old. So basically it's coming from a memory bank where I'm slowly, as the process matures, I'm actually slowly building on my memory bank. And that memory bank now is telling me, when I take a look at the orange, I can identify it. The knowledge is, this is an orange. Remember, in the information, I put, let's say orange. Orange is an orange color, and then apple is red color. Imagine in information stage, I put orange colors in one side, and I put red colors on one side, okay? So I hope you can connect with me. But now in the knowledge, I'm going to say that those color orange, they are actually orange as in fruit orange. Those that were red, they're actually fruit apple fruit. Yeah, do you see what I mean? In the knowledge stage, I'm tapping into my memory bank. In the information stage, I separate the information. It's like a basket, like a play box. You put the toys around. You make sure the toys are in their place. When you go to a kid's room, you put the toys in proper place. That's information. But when we say knowledge, we know, for example, that this, when you take a look at your memory bank, you say that this puppy, as in toy puppy, you have memory about it. That's going to give you a lot of knowledge about that. That puppy, that toy puppy, is going to have a lot of basically points attached to it. I don't want to use information. I want to use points. So, the easiest thing to do for knowledge, I would say memory bank. Just take a look at your own memory bank, and I think we will be just fine. In terms of understanding, it is interpolative. It is basically learning. So understanding is actually allowing us to take a look at the analytical skills that we have. The difference between understanding and knowledge is rightly expressed on this slide as knowledge is memory bank and understanding is learning. Keep in mind that you are in Amazon jungle. You have never been there. You have never been there before. In the past, with a similar environment, not Amazon jungle. This is the first time you are in Amazon jungle. In the past, in a similar environment, You could say, I want to go to route A. Input A, input B, input C data came to you, pieces of data came to you, and you will still see them in the present environment. You're in jungle, Amazon jungle. Lots of trees, you can see 10 meters ahead of you, lots of bushes and greens, and hardly can see any light. You don't know whether monkeys are there, the black bear is there, the insects are there. You did have similar experience in the past, knowledge, memory bank, but today you are going to get additional pieces of data. Let's call them input G, H, and K. G, H, K. Input G, input H, input K. You are going to learn a new route, a new decision to make, and that's going to be about to take off based on whether you go into route A that you have done in the past with similar environment that your memory bank is telling you, versus the basically the new pieces of information, new pieces of data that is coming your way that is going to have an impact on your decision. You're going to learn, you're going to synthesize. Now you're going to say, okay, I had A and B and C as pieces of data. Now I have G and H and K as new pieces of data. I need to reconcile. I need to combine them. How am I going to combine them so that I can actually make this work? Now you selected route B. Remember, it's Amazon jungle. It's a dangerous place, perhaps. It may be dark. You need to find a cave. You need to find a place to sleep. You need to want to be safe. And you didn't know where the cave is, but according to the pieces of data G and H and K, you decided to take the route B because it's the closest route to cave. What happened? That became now part of your memory bank. You did something quite extraordinary. You selected something that you haven't had in the past selected before in your memory bank, and therefore you added something very wonderful in your memory bank. You already know if a situation like this happens again, how you're going to make that decision again. So you're going to go to the cave, you're going to sit down, you're going to look back at a few hours ago where you were at the crossroad between route A and route B. And now you say, why do something? What is the best? Was it the best to go to the cave, or maybe it was best to actually rush to the beach side, passing through the jungle so that you can actually see the ocean and your surrounding better without obstructions from the jungle trees and everything else? You feel safer. It is an extrapolative, outside of the domain. It's future and non-deterministic, non-probabilistic. It is a judgment. It's a judgment that you make, and that's going to add to your wisdom. You are wiser now. If you have seen 10 of these Amazon jungles, if you have been diving into scuba diving into oceans a number of times, you know where the dangers are. You know the plants that are going to be unsafe to get close to. You know how to watch your back, the shark, the fish. Maybe you have a company. So these are the things you need to keep in mind. You are going to become wiser and wiser and wiser. And that's the difference between someone who has been diving for 10 years and someone who is going to dive only for one moment, one time. Skydiving is another example. You have a trainer, you have a teacher. The difference between the skydiver teacher and you is that you are going to skydive only once, but the teacher has been skydiving so many times. The teacher knows all of the belts and vessels and whatever is needed to make sure that you're going to have a secure and safe skydiving. If you're going to do it all by yourself without the help of the teacher, you are possibly going to lose your life. It's not going to be safe without the teacher. So that's what it is. You become wiser and wiser and wiser as you age, as you go around, and you become a mature person. That's a very important thing that I sometimes convey to the younger generation. And the difference between us and hundreds of people of age 18, 16, 15, 14, 12 is that we have accumulated we have completed this process from data, information, knowledge, and wisdom so many times that even if you have hundreds of kids of 12 years old in one room, they don't know. They haven't done any of these. It's not going to add to the wisdom of the group if you put 112 years old in one place. It's not going to add. And that's the difference between father and mother and the children. And they have accumulated this wisdom through many years and decades of life. That's the difference between teachers and students. We have done this in many ways, okay? Keep in mind, this is a simple one, and I think I'm going to stop. I don't want to make it too long. I'm going to get back to this slide in a moment, okay? Stay tuned.